Jeff, Zach, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me again.
Good to have you guys. Okay, so this was trumpeted by the media as big news for residential real estate. I'm going to want your guys' feedback on it, but a $1.8 billion court verdict in a Missouri courtroom. It found the NAR, National Association of Realtors, and two brokerage firms liable for 1.8 billion for conspiring to keep commissions artificially high. And this may mark the beginning of ending how homes are bought and sold. The verdict is being appealed, and in the fine print, that means this might not be resolved for years. But the ultimate fallout could be that you no longer are buyers and no longer is the seller forced to help pay the buyer agent's commissions. Um, some of your thoughts on this ruling and what it really means and its impact on residential, and then also I've had a few people ask, does this impact commercial real estate deals at all?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go first. I think there's a number of impacts come from this. Um, you know, most people don't realize or recognize that there's actually a process to to actually selling a property. And in a lot of ways, especially on the residential side, you get a lot of first-time home buyers that have zero concept of the process, have zero idea of what they need to be doing. And part of that gets helped by having a buyer's side and a seller's side. Now, whether or not a buyer side is going to be able to afford the fee plus the purchase of the price becomes a different discussion. Maybe the prices of houses come down to offset the cost of a buyer's agent fee. I don't know, but I think there's a lot of unintended consequences that come out of this, and maybe some positives as well. I don't want to necessarily throw everybody under the bus.
Oh no, back it up while you're at it, baby. Commercial is less impacted. A lot of times, we know that sellers pay both brokers, but a lot of times sellers have been saying, I will not pay your buyer's broker if there's one. I won't even acknowledge them. Brokers will have to do that internally anyway, and that would be for half of the fee, which is basically the net fee that this court case is going to make a commercial commission anyway. So not really a change on the commercial side. I don't know that it has impacted commercial prices either. So if that translates, in theory, buyers are going to be happy if they're going to keep more of their money. Sellers are going to be pissed because they're going to have to pay somebody or just not work with a broker. So you might see a lot of unemployment come out of this, and a lot more competition on who is going to win these properties to be able to sell them. But I don't know that there will be too great of an impact on the property pricing. Right now, buyers are going to come and say, I need to be cheaper because I need more money to come to the table. And seller's going to say, get rid of your broker. So, I mean, that's kind of how I see it. But I think that I think you're going to see a lot of career changes in unemployment, potentially more than you see anything happening with pricing.
But
Well, yeah.
I tend to agree. I also tend to think deal quality becomes becomes questionable in the process. Two licensed individuals that are working on deals, trying to be honest, straightforward on the deals where somebody might be a little bit more willing to sweep something under the rug becomes more possible than probably in the past, because you got to agents on both sides trying to protect their buyers and or their sellers. So due diligence will become I guess innately a greater detail in the sales process of selling both residential and commercial properties.
Yeah, and just a little more background. I mean, the argument here was right now to get on the MLS, the multiple listing service, there's a requirement that there's a commission about 6% that gets split between the buyers and sellers agent, and you can't list unless you agree to that. And this initial ruling basically found that was unfair.
Well, wait a
Um,
sec, Steve.
mhm.
I'm confused because Redfin prided themselves on 1% to the selling agent, right? So they cut 2 points off and said list with Redfin and your commission will only be 4%. We're going to save you. Other people have followed suit. I never actually looked. I didn't know. Is it those properties not able to be listed on MLS?
That's my understanding of what the ruling was all about, was that the MLS was basically being accused of basically running a monopolistic
And they are.
pricing scheme, and that yeah, they were requiring if you list it, you have to agree to that 6% with an even split between the buyers and sellers agent of each getting 3%. And these cases were basically throwing that out as saying you can't do that. You can't make that a requirement that basically forces the entire market to have to pay this commission, including having um, forcing the buyer's um, agent to be getting compensated by the seller.
It was actually part of the reason I questioned why I understood why NAR was added to it, but it's why I questioned whether and why Keller Williams was added to it. Keller's, is an agent. Yeah, they sell a lot of stuff, but it was an MLS NAR. Um, I don't want to say dictation, but dictation.
Collusion?
Yeah,
Yeah, collusion is basically the argument that they're
yeah.
benefiting, that the entire industry is benefiting from a quote unquote scheme that basically to sell your house, you want to or need to get it on that listing, and then making it a non-negotiable requirement that the for these commission rates, including for and now I think the part if this gets upheld on appeal, that we could see buyers saying, "Well, I don't want to participate. Um, I don't need anything listed. I don't need to be paying for it listing, and potentially I don't even want to. And if I have to pay for my own uh, broker to buy, maybe I don't want to pay them 3%, or maybe I don't even want to use one.
Well,
Um,
look, like everything else that's ever happened before, we usually do these things blind and have to wait for the results and don't know what's going to happen. I hope that this benefits buyers and sellers, and more as sellers than buyers, because the sellers have always had to carry this burden way more than everyone else. But I think
Well,
it's
I
going to
think
be
part of part
interesting because I think there's
I think part of
unintended
this
consequences.
is a discussion of, as a realtor, you are for your license and to be able to list on the MLS, you have to pay the MLS something like I think it's 600 and something dollars a year per realtor. So now, do you really need to list on the MLS when you've got Zillow, LoopNet, Redfin, you've got all these places? Yet, as a realtor, you have to list with the MLS. Like, just seems I get that side. That's the side that throws me.
I hope it's beneficial.
Yeah, for sure.
I think things are going to go sideways.
so I guess one of my questions would be if we move away from the seller having to pay for both the buyer agent and the selling agent. And then also the buyer agent has to pay for their own buying agent, but they also have the option of opting out or not paying or paying a different amount. I could see at the low end some people trying to just go it alone without an agent because they feel like they can't afford it and running into some troubles. But I also see at the high end maybe some people that are buying saying, you know what, I worked out what 3% is on this purchase. You don't need that much. I'll cut you less. I still want an agent, but I'm buying a $5 million home. I'm not giving you three. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think we could potentially see both of those possibly happening if this gets upheld?
I think there's a lot of things that could happen. And the other side, I think almost that's partly where I kind of lose, I guess, or I shouldn't say lose, start questioning is, why this is such a big deal. In Florida, it's, selling a piece of residential real estate is not always 6%. It's not always 5%. You know, it's a sliding scale fee, and that,
Yeah.
and it's really up to the seller to decide, and truthfully, it's one of those things where maybe because of a property is listed with less commission, somebody may not show it, which in and of itself is kind of stupid. I'd rather sell something if I'm on the sell side or buy side than, make something than get nothing, potentially. So,
Ain't that the truth? We talk about that all the time. I'd rather have a piece of something than 100% of nothing.
that's right. And I think the other side is, to your point on the low end, for a seller's agent is probably going to say, you know what, I'd rather get something out of this and deal with another realtor who knows something and help them. And then the last side is there's disclosure requirements with regards to being transactional and how you do this, and being an agent for both sides. Your license requires that you be fair and impartial to both. How do you, I mean, theoretically, how do you do that?
Yeah, when one's
There,
paying you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like I said, unintended consequences. But we'll see.
Okay.
Be
Yeah, I
interesting.
mean, this is getting appealed, and nothing's settled yet, despite what the articles may try to lead folks to believe that the industry's just had a huge change. May have a huge change in the future. We'll keep a look on it, but so far, being appealed, and we will see what happens. Thanks, guys.
thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.